Today I present a success story, a case study of how Virgin Blue have combined traditional tracking research with the hottest NewMR technique and online research community. So I think it's a good example of what Alistair Gordon spoke about in session 1, aligning old and NewMR rather than just saying that NewMR is better. So Virgin Blue operates in the Australian domestic and long-haul airline market. The additional perspectives that NewMR brings to the traditional are answers to this question, and I'm just waiting for the slide to flick on. Answers to this question: how is your flight? I'm sure we've all been asked this question many times by our wives and our husbands, by our colleagues, our clients, and so on. It's a very natural question, a question whose answers constantly change, and I think a question ideally suited to NewMR. And while Virgin Blue has been running traditional large-scale tracking research for many years, we were finding that it was not tapping this question adequately to enable MR to be relevant in the daily decisions that Virgin Blue marketing executives were making. So in late 2008, the idea of V-Insiders was conceived, with it launching as an online research community in mid-2009, with initially 400 regular travellers who could share their opinions and allow us to complement data captured via tracking with insider insights. So here is the homepage banner to V-Insiders, where members were invited to help shape Virgin Blue and its long-haul brands Virgin Australia and Pacific Blue. And to be clear, V-Insiders is an online research community that is a private branded online space where several hundred invited consumers regularly spend time. Here they spend time generating ideas, offering advice to us and to one another, sharing their experiences and feelings, discussing trends, and helping us figure out marketing and business issues. Within V-Insiders, we use a number of the popular Research 2.0 techniques. We use online discussions that take place weekly. We also frequently run polls. We ask members to upload photos of themselves and their flight experiences in the cabin, at airports, at airport lounges. In fact, to really share anything about their flying experiences. We have monthly live chats with a small targeted group of, say, 8 to 10 people, and that also features within V-Insiders. So V-Insiders has been running now, coming up for 18 months. This period has been a particularly active period for Virgin Blue in terms of new innovations. They've launched new destinations. A new CEO has come on board with new ideas about how to compete and so on. In this time we've covered 30 topics on issues ranging from new in-flight entertainment options, baggage handling issues, in-flight food and beverage options, airport and lounge experiences, reactions to new advertising, and so on. All up, we estimate that if all of these were commissioned as discrete ad hoc research projects, Virgin Blue would have needed to spend about 3 times the dollars as what they have invested in V-Insiders. So in this case, NewMR has meant more value for a set level of research spent. And one of the biggest changes has been frequent marketer access to the findings and also frequent marketer access to the researchers. While traditional MR meant taking the brief and then coming back after the fieldwork, which could be 8 to 12 weeks for the bigger ad hoc projects, here outputs are delivered weekly in the form of short and sharp debriefs. Weekly planning also occurs for what insight is required next week based on the learnings from previous weeks, from recent market events, and from recent internal events, or indeed from the bank of topics developed between ourselves and the marketers on a quarterly basis. So we've found by augmenting and combining the NewMR technique of the insiders with the traditional tracking, we've been able to gain additional core benefits, including building knowledge quickly and in fact delivering it quickly. The weekly planning meetings between the market researchers and the marketers have allowed us to do what we want when we want, delivering market research at the right time and the right place. Thirdly, we've gained a real interaction between members. So it's not just us asking the questions, and it's not just getting members into the Q&A mindset, drawing on what Shobha talked about in the previous topic, but indeed members themselves evoking issues. Fourthly, we've brought stakeholders closer to the consumers. And finally, as I've mentioned, we've extracted more value from the research investment, about 3 times more directly from the ORC itself, and even more value when considering the augmentation and interaction between the new MR and the old MR technique. So just a couple of examples here of where we've used the community in specific examples. So this is the weekly newsletter that goes to members. This one was sent about 9 weeks ago. There was a pretty major computer problem over the weekend preceding this newsletter going to members. So we started by apologising on behalf of Virgin Blue to anyone that had been affected by the computer glitch over the weekend. We then went on to ask questions around the issues. If you were affected by the Virgin Blue computer glitch over the weekend, how did it affect you? How were you impacted? How did Virgin Blue staff handle the situation? And if you didn't travel, we'd like to hear about what you heard, what you thought, and what you believe this incident has had on the Virgin Blue brand. So as you would expect, a lot of people commented about their dissatisfaction, about their experiences, about the long delays, the long queues, etc. And all of that was kind of good to get. We got a sense of how to communicate to the public and to travellers on the issue. We've got a number of surprising things as well, including the fact that because people couldn't fly on Virgin Blue in this week, many more people were logging on to the competitors' sites, the Qantas sites and the Jetstar sites. And what they are finding is that instead of a flight costing maybe $300 they were expecting to pay, on the Qantas flight at the site it was costing maybe $600 or $700. So whilst they had an initial negative reaction to Virgin Blue, they had a really strong reaction to what they perceived to be price gouging by some of the competitors. And so those issues could be managed in amongst the obvious problems that Virgin Blue themselves were facing. We also have used this NewMR technique to look at innovations, and this example here is an example of Checkmate, a new digital check-in process via BlackBerries and iPhones. The issue here that we wanted to capture was reaction to this new technology, and also reactions to the name. In Australia, Checkmate is a brand of condom, so accessing 400V insiders enabled excellent unprompted reaction to the issue of naming. You can see down the left on this slide a number of the exploratory and open-ended reactions to the issue of innovation. There were questions raised with respect to security. So does this mean anyone can get on the flight? Issues with respect to saving the barcode. So look, if I lose the page on my phone, what happens? Can I still check in? Questions with respect to the compatibility of phones, which phones are able to use this form of digital check-in, and also issues with respect to multiple people travelling. So if I check my whole family in, how does that impact here? Lots of questions, lots of really valuable information. The issue of in-flight entertainment is a sort of big competitive space in the market at the moment. The question we wanted to tap was, how do you entertain yourself in flight? A key learning here was that it's largely a DIY solution. People read, they bring books and magazines. Nowadays they're also bringing laptops and iPods and so on in flight to enable themselves to entertain themselves. So Virgin Blue's product is a live television featuring 30 channels, costing about $5 per flight all up. What we found here is that the biggest incentive to use Virgin Blue's IFE is on relatively long flights or when travelling with children. We also learned issues with respect to the value proposition. Travellers taking into consideration all of the disruptions that happen in flight, the public announcements, turbulence, takeoff and landing time. We found and received reaction from members within the insiders that approximately a third of the time is lost due to these disruptions. And because it's live TV with no pause function, these disruptions actually affect the flow of the live broadcast. So we got heaps of really good ideas about how this product could be evolved, including integrating the transaction to purchase with the purchase process of food and beverage on board, thereby eliminating the need for a separate business expense claim for those business travellers that needed to justify in-flight expenditure items. I'll skip the next couple of slides. There are a couple of quotes that reflect member perspectives. They're quite interesting, but due to time we'll click on. This next example here is an example of, I think it's a good example of where traditional research previously was not in the game. This issue would not have been researched under the old paradigm. But here it was, because it was easy and simple to include. So a version of this ad was originally used for Be Australia flights from Australia to the USA. A 12-hour flight for those that have done it. Now, whilst Virgin Blue is the long-haul brand, the insiders shared that Fiji to Australians is not considered a long-haul flight. So this ad promoting the sleeping option and the extra benefit of sleeping did not resonate. Many comments around, I wouldn't be bothered paying for such a short trip. So very quickly we got a strong reaction to this particular communication, and it enabled Virgin Blue to manage this execution out of the mix. The future of NewMR at Virgin Blue, I think, is a very interesting space. What we've learned is that, and you would have got a sense of this from the examples that I've shared, is that most of the value has been to lots and lots of tactical decisions rather than to big and frequent strategic issues. So perhaps through NewMR, our industry should focus less on gaining the attention of the C-suite and more on the many day-to-day decisions from a broad cross-section of stakeholders far beyond just the marketing team. So for example here, there's retail people, there's PR, there's service delivery, there's even human resources people and recruitment people that are interested in this sort of information. Sales, the other sides of the business, their velocity loyalty programs, Blue Holidays, etc. All of these people traditionally have not accessed a lot of research, and when they have, they've needed to write a brief, fund some money, talk to the research team, go through a fairly long process to establish the research project, and then wait, as I said, wait maybe 8 to 12 weeks to get their information back. So accessing the insiders has enabled a lot more people throughout the entire Virgin Blue business to receive value from the community. My final point here is how we've been able to deliver ongoing streamed insights rather than delivering research in discrete chunks. This ability should not be underplayed. It's bringing research into the decision-making equation. It's bringing research at the right time and at the right place and in the right context. So weekly, quick and interactive rather than delivered late or at the time that suits the researcher. So we've really tightened the weekly cycle between the market researchers, accessing customer views and tapping the marketer at the time that they need to make the decision. That concludes my talk. Thank you for listening and I look forward to questions.